Hello, everybody. I am extremely excited for today's conversation. One thing I miss probably more than anything is traveling. I imagine all of you probably haven't traveled as much the past year and a half as you had previously. I'm just starting to get back out there, slowly going to places a few hours from the home. Can't wait to go out to Denver in just a few weeks with the Craft Brewers Conference. But with travel comes lodging, and the four of you are lucky enough to have on-site lodging that your dedicated beer fans can come stay at when they come experience your brewery. And I'm excited to kind of dive into one, why you chose to offer an Airbnb at your brewery, the challenges you faced, any things that you've learned. It's gonna be a fun conversation the next hour. But first, Rick, you are to the right of me. So if you could give everybody a brief intro of who you are and what you do.
My name's Rick Horton, the owner and the handyman here at the Outlaw Brewing Company. We're in Winchester, New Hampshire, pretty much out in the middle of nowhere.
Glad to have you, Rick. Tonya, you're up.
Hi, I'm Tonya Mabry with Dalton Union Winery and Brewery. We're in Marysville, Ohio, which is about 25 minutes northwest of Columbus, so in central Ohio, and I'm glad to be here.
No, I appreciate you joining in. Tammy, thanks for joining us as well.
Hi, I'm Tammy Ebbinghaus. I am the owner of Indian Springs Brewing Company in the southwest corner of Missouri, close to Joplin and Springfield area.
Appreciate you being here today. And disclaimer, I had the lovely opportunity of visiting Denise and her husband at their brewery in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, a few weeks ago. It's an amazing place if you like being outdoors, and it was a really great experience. And Denise, if you're not frozen right now, can you tell everybody else a little bit about who you are and what you do? I think Denise might be having some internet issues, but we're going to dive right into the conversation. And the first thing I want to ask all of you is, did you initially have an Airbnb when you first opened your brewery? And if not, why did you decide to add this component to your business? And anyone feel free to dive in.
So I guess I'll start the one that probably likes to talk the most. So when I first started the brewery, absolutely not. We did not have an Airbnb. This is a residential home that was the family home for 10, 12 years. And we decided to move on to across the border to send our kids to another state, the school. And we decided to build a brewery here. And over time, we started to grow a bit. But at no point, even when I decided to build the Airbnb, I didn't know that I was going to build an Airbnb. A friend of mine needed to stay a weekend. It was a Labor Day weekend, so we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary. And I'm like, hey, I got an Airbnb. You want to stay in it? He's like, yeah. I said, all right, now I got to build it. So it took me about 2 weeks to build an Airbnb, cut out a 1-bedroom apartment out of our residential property. And there was the beginning of Airbnb for us.
Wow. So Rick, your Airbnb is attached to your actual home?
So over time, this is not our home anymore. It's becoming more and more of a destination and a place for people to stay. We just built our second Airbnb. So we have 2 units now, and the plan is to add 1 more master unit and a small eatery downstairs. So convert the whole house over.
You said you built it in 2 weeks. Was that from the ground up, or explain a little bit more about how that happened so quick?
So my guys that work for me and my wife know that I make unrealistic goals, and my timelines are way off. So it was 20 hours a day for 2 weeks straight. I had to tear out a wall to put in an outside entrance, move a bathroom around, put up another wall, sand floors, paint it, and then the day of move-in, we were staging it. My wife was hanging stuff on the wall and putting furniture in. So over time, it got better. She doesn't appreciate that this last one, I did the same exact thing, which was even a bigger project. But we got it done in time, and people stayed and enjoyed themselves. So it worked.
That's awesome. Sounds like fun. Glad you have it up and running, and good luck on the second. Denise, welcome back. I'm excited to have you. I was telling everybody before the internet went a little funky that I had the great opportunity to visit you face to face, and it was so great to have a little human interaction with other people in the industry recently. But for everyone who hasn't met you, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do. I think you're loud right now.
Well, my husband and I own Brewing, and we have a a full brew pub, restaurant, tap room. Fortunate enough to move into a building that had 5 one-bedroom apartments already located above it. And so we immediately had plans to make those into B&B lodging. So out of the 5 rooms, we have 3 that'll be used for B&B. We're done right now, and the 3rd one that we're working on. A 4th room I use as an office, and a 5th room that we use for one of our staff that lives here. So yeah, it was a huge plus for the location when we looked at it move to this location.
So your plan all along at the brewery was to turn this into an Airbnb.
And the internet is very spotty here. So.
No, it's okay. Okay, Tonya, how about yourself?
That was something that we planned from the beginning if we wanted to do it.
That's really exciting. And Tonya, how about you? Was it in your plans all along, or what made you decide to turn one of your facility spaces into an Airbnb?
No, it wasn't in the plans from the beginning. Our whole concept was not in the plans from the beginning. Our business just kind of grew organically, very quickly. But yeah, so we've been open 6 years, and we started the Airbnb about 2.5 years ago. And basically it's the whole lower level of our home. And it used to be the mother-in-law suite.
Tonya, I think you may have went out just now. We can't hear you very well. Tammy, are you with us?
Yes.
And the body as well. Am I back?
You're back now. If you want to go ahead and say the last 20 seconds one more time so we can make sure we can hear everything.
Sure. So the Airbnb is the whole lower level of our home. It used to be the mother-in-law suite for when my mom used to come and visit. And she ended up buying a house around the corner. So it sat empty a lot because we spend all of our time out at the Winery Brewery. And we just thought there's no point in having this beautiful 2,200 square foot space sitting empty 99.9% of the time. We should just go ahead and add it to Airbnb. We'd had so many people who would come and visit us and, say, wow, you guys have everything here. We just need a place to stay. And so we decided to convert it. And it's been way more successful than what we had anticipated. When we first listed it, we thought, oh, we'll get people, a handful of times a year. And it's literally booked every weekend. You've got to book it several weeks in advance. So we get about 200 nights a year where it's booked. So
that's absolutely amazing. And 2,200 square feet. That is a very large Airbnb there. That's bigger than my house.
Yeah, it's we're blessed with a very large home, and it's just the two of us, my husband and I. So we live upstairs, and then the guests are downstairs. We allow them to sleep up to 10 people. It's got a theater room and a poker room, pool table. So it's a very comfortable space. And they get their own patio. It's a covered patio, and we allow them access to the fire pit in the backyard. And and again, it's just probably 100 yards from Dalton Union. So
Tonya, I'm going to stop you there because you're answering questions that I haven't even asked yet.
Oh, sorry.
No, I love all the information you're sharing because it's stuff we're going to really dive into. But Tammy, I want to hear from you first. I'd love to hear, why, because you're also a husband-wife team. Rick, are you a husband-wife team as well?
Yes, we are.
I didn't plan this panel to be for husband-wife teams who also run Airbnbs, but apparently that's the situation today. But Tammy, why did you and your husband decide to add an Airbnb to your already probably busy operation?
Our tap room is actually located on a historical square, town square, and above most of the buildings on this square, there's apartments. So for the last 4 years, we had a tenant upstairs it was about a 2,000 square foot apartment. And he moved out And we decided that we didn't want an apartment that big. We were going to divide it into two. And so when we divided it, we decided that we wanted one to be an Airbnb. So we rent one of them out, and then the other one, the one in the front of the building, is an Airbnb. It's completely beer themed. Everything down to the shower curtain is beer themed. We make our own soap and beer soap, and everything's in there. So it's been a great experience. We kind of thought that it would just be a place for us to hang out, us and our employees, maybe some musicians that come and play, but it's booked continually almost every night of a month. So
wow,
it does really
fantastic for all of you, because one thing I thought I would hear during this conversation is a lot of the frustrations, but so far it seems like a very, very positive experience. Awesome. Now, Tonya, you had started pitching a little bit about your Airbnb. I'd love to just kind of go around the circle and also, tell me why, if I was a customer, what sets your Airbnb apart? We've all kind of scrolled through Airbnb, looking at all the amazing establishments in the area, but what are the biggest advantages why a guest would, besides, want a brewery or want a winery, that someone would want to stay with you? What do you bring to the table?
I'll go ahead and start. I know the reasons that I hear that people book with us so much is, number one, that so many guests can stay at one time. And so we get a lot of bridal parties, getaways for girls, bachelor parties, things like that. So, because there's not a lot of places that can accommodate that many people where they can all stay together. And then we're way out here in the middle of nowhere. So, people like that you get the quietness, but, you're really only 10 minutes from town. And we've got a lot of attractions within a 15-minute drive. We're out here, but then, within 10, 15 minutes, you can get to several other wineries and breweries and attractions. And, we've got a ski resort just 12 minutes away. So in the winter, we get a lot of people who come for Mad River Mountain. And, and then the price, we only charge $119 a night plus the cleaning fee. So that's a pretty good deal, especially for 2,200 square feet.
For 10 people, you're underselling yourself there. I've seen Airbnbs that house 10 people for $500 a night. So I think people are getting an awesome opportunity at your place.
Yeah, we may adjust that. And like I said, when we first listed it, we really didn't expect many people to book it. And so, yeah, most people think it's a pretty good bargain.
How much do you believe people? How much do people stay at your facility based on just the safety component? Not having to drive, everything's a one-stop shop. Is that something people, you think about when they decide to stay there?
Yeah, I think that I would say probably 50 to 60% of the people who are booking here are coming to Dalton Union, they're drinking, and then they're coming back. Other reasons, they're coming in town for weddings, graduations, other types of events, and that's not their reason. They just didn't want to stay in a hotel or whatever. But it's definitely a lot of the, because we even get locals who book it that live, just a few miles away, but they're like, we don't want to drive home. So a bunch of us were coming to celebrate a birthday or something. And they're like, we want to stay here so we don't have to worry about driving home.
That's a smart decision. Sounds like you have a great place where people can come enjoy.
Yes.
And Rick, how about you? I know you love to talk, but I'm going to limit you to 30 seconds to a minute to tell me about, why I should come stay at your Airbnb on that brewery.
So what's interesting about our Airbnb is we're about 2 hours outside of Boston and about the same down to Hartford, Connecticut. So we're kind of the gateway into New Hampshire, this side of the New Hampshire. And so people can get away and do some hiking and that type of stuff. Probably our biggest draw is that we're pet friendly. I would say 95% of our visitors, our guests, bring their dog with them. We don't charge an additional fee for that. We just, because the brewery is also pet friendly, we feel it's a a good part of our culture here. We're about $150 a night, and actually, it is exactly $150 a night, but it's a 2-night stay minimum, and we're booked all the way into the end of October.
And we're going to dive into some of the challenges with regard to an Airbnb. But I imagine allowing dogs in your Airbnb, you might get your share of accidents. So, how do you handle something like that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We have not discovered any accidents over the 3 years we've been doing this. Our guests have been very responsible, but there is the component of shedding and fur, and that is, that adds a considerable amount of time to all of the cleaning. And the little trick I learned is lint brushes. They make paint roller size lint brushes, and that's how we pick up all that fur.
Awesome. Good tip right there. Tammy, how about you? Why should I come stay at your Airbnb? What's the pitch?
I think a lot of people come who are just love the craft beer culture. We have a lot of people that come and travel through. They're going somewhere, but they found us on Airbnb, and they love craft beer, so they choose us. They also have some perks. You get free flights when you stay, so you can walk downstairs and drink and walk right back up. So we also have some big cities around within about an hour. And so we have Northwest Arkansas, which is Fayetteville, which is huge for us, and Springfield. Mm-hmm. And so people come from there to see some of the breweries around here. And so it's nice to not have to drive back after you've been, brewery hopping around this area. So a lot of them are craft beer lovers in general that have just found us on the Airbnb.
That's a great segue to the next question I wanted to ask, because people are finding you on Airbnb, like Tammy mentioned. Are you getting that typical craft beer crowd? Or are you getting people more intrigued that you're an Airbnb on a brewery or winery, and then you're seeing like a different type of consumer come? What are all your observations?
I think it's some of both. I think it's mostly craft beer lovers. They're just come across it, and then they get excited that they're above a brewery, and so they want to stay that way. We do have, travelers that just chose to stay here, and then that's a perk that they have just happened to find one that's with a brewery. So that becomes a good thing for them, and we get a lot of new people who develop a taste for craft beer around.
Have you seen many repeat stays from guests at your Airbnb?
Here.
Tammy, I think we might have went out. Have you seen any repeat stays at your Airbnb of people who just come and just want to keep coming back because it's everything in one spot?
They do, yeah. We do have some locals, I say fairly local, within 40 minutes, who do want to come down. We have a very popular thing called Live and Local. That's a very big music event every Wednesday. So we do have locals that come.
And Tammy, your audio is a little in and out. Rick, are you with us?
I am here.
Rick, we're going to dive into you. Tell me a little bit about who's staying at your Airbnb.
Just for that, and they don't want to go home, so they will.
As far as who's staying at our Airbnb, well, we list our Airbnb headline as stay at a craft brewery. So that's maybe a little cheating, but it definitely catches people's eyes. It actually shows up occasionally on my Facebook feed, and I'm like, hey, that's my property. But it's not always, or very seldom is it both that are looking for craft beer. It's one or the other that says, I booked it because they love craft beer. So it's always couples. We only allow 2 adults in our space, and it's a little getaway. And craft beer is very social and builds a community. So we knew that would work when we said stay at a craft brewery.
I mean, who doesn't want to stay at a craft brewery? Brewery Airbnbs, I think, are becoming more of a thing. And I know when I travel now, it's one of my recent searches in my history where I can, stay at a small town, stay at an Airbnb, and check off the box of visiting that brewery at the same time. So it's a win-win-win in a lot of different aspects there. Tonya, how about yourself? Who are you getting as your, typical customer who stays at the Airbnb?
It's just a mix of everything. Since we are a winery, a brewery, cidery, meadery, we make everything we sell, so we don't carry any guest taps or anything like that. We get all kinds of visitors, lots of wine drinkers, lots of beer drinkers. So it just really kind of depends. And then because we do so many events, we get so many people that are really staying because they're in for an event, whether it be for a wedding or for a shower, because we host a lot of showers. We don't really do weddings because most people want to get married on Saturday, and that's our big day. And we won't close for a private event, even though we have had some weddings. But we've even had, especially through COVID, we've had some very small, intimate weddings in the Airbnb. There's just all kinds of reasons. I mean, there's nothing that really stands out. It's a good wide variety. When you do a search on Airbnb, it's winery, brewery, country, escape. It could really be anything. People just wanting to get away, people, who are looking for wineries or breweries. It could just be anything.
No, I love it. Thanks for sharing all that. Now, I had an interesting observation. We've lost two of our guests today. I'm assuming the internet issues are funky across the states today. But Rick, you do not have your Airbnb listed on your brewery website that I could find. Was that intentional, or is there any way you have to be careful as being a brewery who also owns the Airbnb? And do you kind of treat them as the same business, or are they separate entities?
We treat them pretty separately, just to kind of, even as business wise, as accounting, all that stuff, they're completely separate. So whether it's not reason why it's not on our website, I'd have to ask my wife that one.
That's fair enough. And Tonya, I know yours is on your website. Tammy, I don't believe I saw that the Airbnb was listed on the website. Does that have to do anything with, like, are they different business entities? Are you not allowed to do that? Is there anything that people should be aware of if they're thinking of a similar setup?
No, we just haven't revamped our website recently. I need to put it on there. We put it out on social media a lot. Links to it and things like that on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, I need to get it put up on our website.
So is most of your traffic though coming directly from Airbnb, or people who are specifically searching you first?
I believe directly from Airbnb, a lot of it, and then maybe through our social media pages.
Now, Tonya, is yours a separate entity, or is it just all fall under the same umbrella?
It's kind of all under the same umbrella.
I know there was a thread in Crappy Professionals recently that kind of was, as I was leading up to this panel today, they own a brewery, but above the brewery, I think, was an old hotel. And there was some reason why they couldn't stay there themselves, but they could make it Airbnb. It's just interesting regulation. So I would imagine everyone should just check with your local authority of anything you should be aware of before you dive into something like this. Now, we had a really neat question just now, because over the past year and a half, we've seen so many breweries partner with other businesses in the community to just help support one another throughout the process. And Wilmington Brewworks, I'm not sure the person's name, but the company is Wilmington Brewworks, asked, do any of you partner with local amenities for the traveler? I would imagine they mean maybe a local soap maker, anyone providing other, good services you can include as part of, their stay in your Airbnb. Has any of you kind of dove into that?
We do that. Actually, we have a friend who is opening a restaurant next door to us, who also is putting in an Airbnb above her restaurant. And so we will partner together as far as food and things like that. We actually have, there's another Airbnb down here, downtown, and we put coupons for our brewery in his Airbnb. So that brings traffic to us as well. So, and we partner with some restaurants downtown.
Rick and Tonya, how about both of you? Do you kind of partner with any local businesses to stock your Airbnb?
Well, we're kind of out on an island on ourselves as far as where we're located, and so we talk about the local restaurants that have us on tap and who are local, but it's still a distance away from where our brewery is.
And I'll ask you the same question I threw to Tammy. Are you seeing a lot of your traffic come directly from Airbnb, or is it people reaching out to your breweries and like, oh my gosh, they have a place I can stay as well?
No, I would say 95% of our traffic come from the short-term sites, Airbnb, Vrbo, and TripAdvisor. And I will say the last month and a half has been all Vrbo reservations. And when we first started, it was all Airbnb. Everything was Airbnb. We got no Vrbo, an occasional TripAdvisor. Now Vrbo has really turned it up. I don't know if their marketing's different or what, but they have definitely become a good source for us.
So that's interesting. I actually have not used Vrbo myself and wasn't sure if I should say it Vrbo or VRBO. I wasn't sure the proper course on that one. But that's interesting. Is it operate very similar to Airbnb? Because I imagine most people listening are very familiar with Airbnb, but Vrbo not so much. What do you
they work
about it?
Yeah, they work all about the same. You have to list them all the same. And what's great, and we list with TripAdvisor, Vrbo, and Airbnb, they'll sync all the calendars together. So if you book on Vrbo, I don't have to go and look at Airbnb and be like, okay, I got to block those off. They all sync together. And knock on wood, we haven't had a glitch yet. So it's quite interesting.
And that's through TripAdvisor that helps it sync together?
No, actually, they all sync to each other. Like Airbnb syncs to Vrbo and TripAdvisor. You just tell them where you want them to look, and that's your availability calendar, and it will automatically sync across the board.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Tonya, do you put yours on Vrbo as well?
We do not. We strictly use Airbnb. I just wanted to keep everything simple.
It seems like you're renting it out quite a bit already, so it's not a challenge.
Yeah, it's not a challenge. And so I there was part of me initially, I thought we would use multiple platforms, but then when it started just booking up so frequently to the point where people were like, wow, I can never get it booked. I definitely didn't want to start using multiple platforms. So Airbnb has been great, and I have no complaints about it. So
awesome. Thanks for sharing. And Tammy, how about you? What platform do you use to promote your site?
I just use Airbnb, but that's very interesting. I didn't know that they would sync together. So I will have to check that out.
No, great insight, Rick. Thanks for sharing with the team here. Now,
You're
question
welcome.
though, I mean, with regard to running the Airbnb, you're running another business. Anytime I have a conversation with a brewery owner who's thinking about adding a kitchen, I'm like, get ready for it, because it's a whole nother skill set. It's adding a whole nother business to your operation, and adding an Airbnb is the exact same situation. So with regard to that, using sites like Airbnb, Vrbo, is it worth the effort you're putting into it? Because obviously I imagine everyone here, are you the ones doing the cleaning for your facilities?
I do, yeah.
Go ahead.
It doesn't really take me any time. Of course, mine's smaller. Ours is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So it's a lot smaller, but I feel like I'm at the tap room every day anyway. So it's not much to go upstairs and clean and, change the bedding and things. It doesn't take a lot.
Are you charging an additional fee for cleaning, I would imagine?
I do. Yeah, I do.
How much are you charging for that?
I think it's like $10, $10 or $15. So it's not much.
That's the one I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rick, how about you? Because obviously it's running another business. How do you dedicate time specifically to managing the Airbnb?
Yeah, so it is quite interesting. Over the last few years, I've really learned that the brewery is its own business. And then our venue, which is our tap room and outside space where we rent space for a food truck, that's a separate business. And then our Airbnb is a completely separate business. I have my daughter, teenage daughter, and some of her friends. I employ them to do our cleanings and our turnovers, which they do a fantastic job. And it allows me to just check it over right before check-in and make sure that door codes are set and people can arrive and be welcome.
And what are you charging for a cleaning fee?
We do not charge a cleaning fee. My philosophy and my wife's philosophy is it's one fee. And just like if you were going to rent a hotel, that's the people that we want to kind of draw over to the short-term stay side. And you pick a price, and that's your price. Then you have all your taxes on top of that. But we felt it was easier to sell that way.
I agree with you, because on a personal level, when I'm going out of town, I see, oh my God, it's only $100 to stay on a brewery. Then I get tacked on with the $75 a night cleaning
Right.
fee or total. Yeah, it can definitely confuse you, to say the least. Tonya, how about you? How do you handle the cleaning fee situation?
So thankfully, my mom and stepdad actually clean the Airbnb for us. And, my mom's obviously very familiar with the space, since that's where she would stay when she would visit. And they're retired, so they have a lot more free time on their hands, and she's a clean freak. So works out really great for me. Dale and I initially cleaned it, and we just don't have time trying to run the business and everything else. So that's been a real lifesaver that she cleans it for us. And, but yeah, it is definitely a separate business. I mean, just because you still have to, buy all the supplies. I think the laundry is probably the biggest issue. I feel like all I ever do is laundry, with the sheets and the towels and the blankets.
So that's a really interesting question, because I don't know too many breweries that have a washer and dryer. So I imagine to make an Airbnb successful, that's something you have to have. So do you have a washer and dryer on site, I would imagine?
Well, I use the one in my house. I mean, It's right upstairs. So it's the same one I use for my personal laundry. But the Airbnb definitely consumes more time with laundry than my husband and I with our clothes. So, but yeah, it's just a lot of laundry, because when you've got, like last weekend, on Friday, we had a group of 7, and on Saturday we had a group of 5. So, yesterday all the laundry comes, and it's a lot of laundry that I have to get done before this weekend when we have more people staying. So we have lots of sets of sheets.
How complicated is it balancing checkouts with check-ins? Like, do you allow, like, say, check-in out at 11 a.m., then check-in at 3 p.m.? Do you have that small window? And how stressful is that for you to make sure the unit's ready by then?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly when our checkout is at 11, check-in is at 3. And so when we have back-to-back rentals, it is stressful. You hope that they've left it in good condition. And it takes my mom and stepdad about 2 hours to do a thorough cleaning. And because again, it is 2,200 square feet and it's all carpet. And so it takes quite a long time just to vacuum. But then changing over the sheets and dusting everything and just restocking all the little supplies and amenities and stuff. So it's about a 2-hour process. So we don't allow very many early check-ins or late checkouts unless there's nobody on the other side.
And do you bundle your cleaning fee in with the overall price, or do you charge it on top of the stay?
It's on top. It's a $50 cleaning fee.
And you have a very big facility.
We do that primarily because I really wish people would book more than one night. We don't have a 2-night minimum. But obviously that brings your overall cost down, your nightly rate down if you book more than one night, because you only pay one cleaning fee. So, but it doesn't seem to discourage anyone.
No, interesting. And Rick, I know you mentioned you have a 2-night stay minimum. Tammy, how about you? Do you have any minimum?
I do not. I probably should. I think probably about 75% are one-nighters. And it does get frustrating to do laundry so much, but I have gotten extra of everything, so I don't have to be in a rush to get it done right that day or the next day. I have, 3 or 4 sets of sheets and things that I can just throw on and rotate. But yeah, people do rent it through the week or through the weekend for a couple nights, which is really nice to not have to go there every day. But
you specifically block off any days just to make your life easier?
Not unless I'm out of town. And sometimes I don't even do that. Some of our employees and things will run up there and clean. But if I'm out of town and I know that it's going to be difficult for somebody to get there, then I'll block them.
And with regard to pricing, that's something I want to dive into. I mean, all of you have been running an Airbnb for some time now. When you initially decided to open your Airbnb, your on-site lodging, whatever we want to call it, did you start with a certain price that you just kind of had arbitrarily, or how did you determine that initial price per night? And has it changed since, or do you kind of fluctuated based on the seasons and busy times?
So as far as when we started, it was I didn't want to be the least expensive stay out there. I wanted to make sure we could cover our costs, and I was trying to push to a target audience. Airbnb at the very beginning kept telling us to reduce our price, because you'll get more bookings. And that wasn't what we were looking for. We were looking for higher quality bookings. So we started at 120 a night. And I finally sat down with my wife and said, you know what, it's worth it, the property and our time, to be 150 a night. A 2-night minimum stay, so that we're not getting a Saturday night and losing our Friday and our Sunday. And let's just see what happens. If it doesn't book, then we can regroup. But we can. It's hard to go up after you stuck at 120. So it works. The sites will talk to you and kind of give you an idea of what else is booking around, so you can get some good feedback from that.
No, I'm not too familiar with New Hampshire, so I don't know any seasonal festivals or events that you might have come through. But do you ever change the price based on certain conditions locally? Like whether you have like a big event coming to town, or maybe it's being ski season, people want to come to the mountain. Are there anything you do to kind of just increase prices on weekends you know that you can get it?
In the past, we have not. And every time a holiday weekend books, I'm like, oh, we should have. I can't believe we didn't do that. And we only did Labor Day this weekend to 175, and I'll have to look at the bookings. I believe we're booked, but 150 feels right for us. And I started business not in the direction that most business people do it. I want to just pay my bills. I wasn't worried about making $1 million, and this was just a, hey, I'll build it, see what happens. And it pays the mortgage twice every month. So it worked. My brewery's rent free. And so.
Are you considering adding more units? I know you mentioned the second, but following the second, will there be a third, fourth? Do you have like a tiny home village behind the brewery?
That would be wonderful. We have space for one more unit, which we'd like to do. And maybe someplace my wife and I can live once we move back to this space. Maybe, we don't know. My wife asks me all the time, where are we going to live? I'm like, I don't know, somewhere.
I'll build something behind the brewery in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's what
I just think something. It'll be fine.
I love it, Rick. Tonya, how about you? How do you price your Airbnb?
I think initially when we, because we've never changed it, I think we just kind of looked at like what hotels were charging, and kind of wanted to be somewhere in the same vicinity, but just a little bit higher, because obviously they're getting more than what they get at a hotel. And but we also have it, Airbnb do the smart pricing, so it will recognize holidays and more popular times where other local Airbnbs are already booking. So it can go up to 175 if it's a super popular weekend in the area. So you just have to set Airbnb to smart pricing, and it will automatically fluctuate it.
Because your place is so large. I mean, the actual unit where the guest stays is 2,200 square feet.
Yes.
Has Airbnb recommended you charge more? Is there like a base
no,
offer for
it's still,
in your area?
Like Rick said, it still tells us to lower the price. So
you can't trust them sometimes, can
you?
And you'll notice Verbo tells you to increase the price.
Yeah, all the other Airbnbs in the area are very small. I mean, they're like single room units in the county. I mean, and there are very few, but they are literally like a room in a house with a shared bathroom or something. So all the other units in Union County are like $59, things like that. So that's why I think it keeps telling us to reduce our price, because they're comparing with other Airbnbs. And I'm like, don't compare us to other Airbnbs because it's not apples to apples. So I just keep ignoring it.
Sounds like a good decision. Tammy, how about you? How have you managed to successfully price your place?
I kind of looked around the area to see. There's not many around here. There are some in some of the bigger cities around, and I kind of just took a guess. I figured if I could raise or lower it at any time if I thought it wasn't working. It is booked so often that I do feel like I need to raise the price because it is popular. And I think I could probably get a little bit more money out of it if I raise the price. I look at the smart pricing some, but then I don't feel like it's quite accurate all the time. And we don't have a lot of events around here. The town just put in a big mountain biking preserve. And so I feel like once that gets really popular, that our prices will go up. All the mountain bikers will come. So.
Now, for everyone here today, have you thought about handling the reservations yourself outside of Airbnb or Vrbo, or is that too much stress?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big no, it looks like.
Yeah, Airbnb just provides so much protection. There's a lot of protection that goes in it as far as insurance and things, lots of regulations, things I didn't know. We had a conversation about service dogs, the regulations on service dogs and lots of things. So I feel like there's a lot of protection when it comes to booking through them.
Is there anything else that you really enjoy about the platform they provide, or the other ones, Rick, like Vrbo? Are there any nice benefits that you've experienced?
I think they're all pretty equal. We only communicate through the booking site. So people like, oh, text me here. No, we only communicate through the booking site. We only book through the booking site, unless it's a personal friend. Then I'm like, oh, you know what? You want to stay? We can block that weekend off for you or whatever it may be. But they offer $1 million of liability insurance for every booking. We find that to be well worth the short fee that we pay for it. I think our payout, we pay them $5 or $6 a reservation, which is or per night, which is minimal to us. I think for what they really offer. All the pictures are there, searchable. It's just a great platform, all three of them. So
fantastic. Tonya, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, I do all the, I book all of our musicians, our food trucks, I schedule our employees. No way would I handle the booking for the Airbnb. With Airbnb taking it and it's booked, they get their confirmation right away. So a customer's not having to wait on me to check. Yeah. And the liability is the big thing. And like, I won't even hold it for friends. I'm like, oh no, go through Airbnb,
Are you able to give them like a special code if they want to rent it from Airbnb? Like say you want to give someone a discount or say you want to give a friend a free weekend.
You can send them a special offer.
Yeah.
So you can do that. It's not really a discount code, but you can send them a special offer. But yeah, I refuse to let somebody not go through Airbnb because of liability and because our homeowners insurance also, if God forbid something happens, because this is our home, if something would happen, homeowners insurance won't cover the claim if it was not booked through Airbnb.
No, that's a great tip right there. And one thing I do want to talk about, because one thing I love about Airbnb or just staying in one of those sites like Vrbo, you get to interact directly with your host. You're not going to some corporate hotel chain. Your experience is more personalized. Have any of you experienced, say a potential guest almost trying to barter with you through the platform? And how do you handle situations like that?
Yeah, I've had a couple people, ask, oh, can I get it for $80? Some stranger just randomly, probably because they can do that at, Comfort Suites or something. And I'm like, nope, this is the rate. I mean, if it was something like through the week, I might consider that. But when I know on a weekend I'm going to get the full price from someone, I'm just like, no.
I would imagine you're more apt to accept something like that for a last minute booking on a Monday or Tuesday when like, well, I could get nothing or I could get whatever they're offering.
Yeah, it's just not, I'm like, no. And so like in our listing, we don't allow anyone under 18. I mean, I feel that this is, we do not market ourselves as a family friendly location. All we make is alcohol. We are also not a restaurant. So we, you know, we're constantly getting people asking, oh, well, can I bring my 5 and 6 year old, you know, or, you know, and every time we've made an exception, we've had issues. So, you know, anytime the people contact us asking us questions, trying to make exceptions, whether it be pricing or children, or we have made exceptions for dogs because we are, like Rick says, we're super hyper dog friendly. We love dogs. But I want to know what I'm getting into before letting Airbnb make the decision for dogs. I want to make the decision. So they have to ask and they have to tell me what kind of dog they're bringing.
Do you limit it to certain breeds?
I just want to make the decision. I want to know what kind of dog it is, how old it is, you know, is it a well-behaved dog? Is it a well-trained dog? How allergenic is it? It was like as a super shedder. Like we don't even let our own dogs go down there. So, because I know people have allergy, you know, I don't want somebody to check in and be like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe because of the dander. So
that sounds like a stressful part of the operation there.
Yeah. So but you know, we've let people with dogs and we haven't had any issues with dogs. So
awesome.
But we have with children.
Rick and Tammy, have you had many guests try to barter with you through the platforms, and how have you handled it?
I haven't really. I mean, I've had some people who want to stay a full week, you know, and ask for a little bit of a discount. And most of the time I'm okay with that. We just don't have, ours isn't really set up. Ours is set up more of like a hotel style. So there's not even a stove, it's microwave, coffee maker. And so, you know, I don't really let people stay for a full week because it's just odd. But other than that, no, other than asking for a discount for the week, no, I haven't had that problem.
That's interesting you mentioned things like a stove, because I know when I go stay at a hotel, I never even think about a stove. But when you say, oh, we're going to stay at, you know, an Airbnb, you start thinking about all the extra amenities that may be packaged in. And I think that's part of the lure of these Airbnbs. So how do you differentiate in any way of like what amenities do you provide that are more than the local hotels offer?
We do have, you know, we have a kitchen sink. We have dishes if they're bringing takeout in and need dishes and glassware and things like that, and a microwave. But yeah, we just don't. We have a fridge. It's a little bit bigger than it's like a retro fridge. I don't know how to explain it, but smaller than a house fridge. So they can put things in that. They just can't necessarily cook on a stove. It is more of a hotel style, just bigger space.
I mean, who doesn't like to stay above a brewery? Now, Rick, how about you? You know, do you have to deal with the customers trying to get a better deal from you?
Over the past 3 years, we really haven't had anybody so much the worry of the price, but more there's a few situations that we've run into where somebody's booked a 2-night minimum stay and then they send for a booking modification, and that booking modification can then turn into a 1-night stay. I got caught on that one time. The other thing I've experienced a few times is people looking to book, asking if it's available, and then saying that their company's going to be sending us a check to cover the stay. And which is absolutely a scam. They'll send a check.
Like the scam people get. Say, I want to host a party with 20 people in your tap room. What's that guy, Joe Covington?
Yeah, exactly. Same stuff. On as far as the amenities types of things, we really designed ours to not be like staying in a home. It's got a kitchenette. Both units have a kitchenette. The downstairs unit has a deck and a gas grill, so they can cook on that, and an outside fireplace. But the second unit upstairs has a microwave, a coffee maker, a fridge, sink, nice little kitchenette. But really, it's designed for short-term stays, and we do our best to keep them as short as possible. Longest we've done is 2 weeks. Wow. And wear and tear on a unit in 2 weeks is way different than 2 nights. The cleaning takes longer, all of that stuff. So we prefer those 2-night stays over anything.
That makes sense. Now, Tonya, how about yourself? What kind of amenities do you have and provide that go above and beyond your local hotel?
I mean, like we have a wet bar with microwave, and we have a wine fridge and a mini fridge, toaster. But yeah, our issue is people assume it has a full kitchen. And even though it clearly states in the listing what the amenities are, we've had a few cases where people get here and they're like, oh, they just assume when they see the pictures that it because it's so big that there's a full kitchen. And I'm like, nope. And so that's, eventually we would like to put in more of a full kitchen, like a larger refrigerator, and maybe, some kind of convection oven or something. But because we do get people who stay a full week, and we've let people use our grill, and, we've made accommodations for people. We've cooked their food, but, of course, I'm sure they feel uncomfortable, and we feel a little uncomfortable when that happens. So, and ours is kind of more the opposite. They assume we have all those things for them, and we don't.
Interesting. I know Tammy mentioned you include a flight for the guests. Is that correct?
We do, yeah, a flight per guest. So if there's 2 or 4 people, each one gets a flight when they come down. So, which
That's
helps,
nice.
They end up spending a lot of money by the end, because it pulls them down here, and so they end up drinking way more than a flight usually. So
you would say that your Airbnb guest spends more than your average taproom customer?
Definitely, probably partly because they don't have to drive home, and they feel we're very inclusive, so they feel very welcomed, like part of us. When my bartenders know that they're staying upstairs, they're very talkative and include them in everything. So I think they stay. One night I stayed here until midnight because we got along so well with the Airbnb people that they didn't leave until midnight to go back upstairs. It's fun to meet other people.
That's a really interesting thing, because when someone's traveling, it's great to meet someone at your local bar or brew pub that you connect with. Do you have to kind of step away sometimes? Because, you can't be friends with everybody. Of course you can talk to people, you can get them to like you. But if you're hanging out till midnight with your new best friend who's staying at your Airbnb, that can be kind of time consuming. How do you kind of balance that?
It is. That's a very rare thing, but they do. It depends. It depends on their personality. Some of them want to be totally left alone, and they're trying to seclude themselves. But others are looking to have fun and wanting to talk to locals. So it just depends on their personality.
Now, thanks for sharing all that. Now, as we wind down this hour, I wanted to kind of save this one towards the end, because I like to keep things really positive, not negative. But everybody read those stories online, Airbnb, stays. Have any of you had that guest who just wreaked havoc on your, space, or caused any damage or trouble, or just that really unfortunate experience you've had to deal with? I love that we're getting crickets to start, because this is kind of optimistic. So you both muted like the same time.
Yeah. So the one guest that I can think of as the nightmare guest, and boy, I gotta say this person she was crazy. She would come out to the tap room with her dog. She was arguing with her boyfriend that she brought along with her, and I shouldn't have even brought him. And then she'd go back in, and she'd leave her dog outside. And it was snowing out, like snowing, one of our worst snowstorms. And I go and knock on the door. Nobody would answer because I'm trying to bring the dog back. and she's sitting in her car because she doesn't want to sit in the room with her boy. Like the whole thing was like really bizarre. And the next morning we didn't find any bodies, so it was okay. The other interesting guest stay, and I'll make it really quick. We had somebody from Switzerland book it. Never showed up, never communicated, never asked for a refund. And I'm convinced that somewhere that was just a paper trail for this wealthy lawyer that was looking to say he was staying somewhere. That's all I'm going to go with.
That's interesting. And did you reach out to that individual?
No.
You didn't do any internet sleuthing trying to figure out who they were?
Oh, I knew. I found out who he was. He was actually a merger lawyer for Fortune 500 companies, and actually in banking, I think, or something like that. And I'm like, well, what if they don't want me to ask? So I didn't ask.
Probably better not to know in that situation. Tonya, now you unmuted a minute ago, so I imagine you have something to say on the side of unfortunate guest stays.
Yeah, so our very first guests were a regular at our location. They had booked for their daughter's graduation, so she was having a lot of family come in from out of state, and so she was like, well, some of my family's going to stay in the Airbnb, and so that was like our deadline. We had to get everything ready by then. And I mean, from the kids throwing rocks everywhere, barbecue sauce on their hands, touching everything, peeking in the windows. And we let them use our grill. They stayed for like 5 days. We were out working in the brewery. This is in the middle of the week. And we look over and they're all up on our deck outside, on our deck. And they're like sitting on our patio furniture that doesn't have the cushions on it. So they stretched out all the bands, and they had to have come into our house because there was like stuff open. And the kids were like throwing rocks when they actually had the party, that were like hitting our building and cars. And my husband's like, stop. And he's like, where are the adults? And they took we have like a fire pit kind of thing. It's like a big copper bowl down on the lower level for them. And they dumped all the little rocks and the ash into the flower bed for some strange reason. I have no idea. They just dumped it right into our flower bed. We're like, what are you doing? It was a plethora of things. Oh, and then they clogged the toilet in it, so it flooded. Like one of the kids, like I don't even know what they shoved in the toilet, so flooded the bathroom. And
were you ready to give up on the Airbnb concept after that first visit?
What it did was teach us, number one, because again, they were the first ones we ever used. And we had to, it was like, okay, everyone has to book through Airbnb. I don't care how good of a friend they are. They have to book through Airbnb. It forced me to put together a list of actual rules because I didn't have that. It made us come up with a lot of new rules, which there have been a lot of guests we've had to come up with new rules. That guest rules thing gets amended a lot. But yeah, it was just like, you realize doing Airbnb that not everyone has common sense.
I think, that's very true in the world. Well, sorry you had that experience. Glad it's gotten better. Tammy, have you had any unfortunate experiences?
I am lucky, I guess, because I really haven't had anything. I've had, just a few people say that it's just them, and then they have probably 5 or 6 people show up. But I've never had a problem. I've never had it dirty. I've never had anything broken. I mean, it's been great.
That's fantastic. No, while I got you, Tammy, is there any advice you can give to anyone considering opening an Airbnb at their brewery, or something that you've learned that can make their experience easier?
I highly suggest you do it. I mean, it's been a great experience for us, a great income for us. And definitely do it through Airbnb or a site, not on your own, because you have to have that insurance and protection there. So
Good tips there. Hope it continues to stay busy for you. Rick, you're
thanks.
up. Lesson learned or some advice you want to give to anyone considering opening up their own?
My advice is to do it. Even if you don't have enough time to do it, do it. You'll figure it out. It's a great revenue source, and it's not even just the revenue source of the short-term stay, but these people come and they, spend $100, $200 in your tap room, and then they buy merch, and they bleed the brand all the way through, and it's an important part of it. Some of them return, some of them tell somebody to come back. It's a really great component. So much as I've asked everybody that has a 1-bedroom apartment on my road, I've told them I'll sign a lease and allow me to Airbnb it. So nobody's taken me up on it yet, but
so Rick, that's a term I learned the other day. My wife probably spends a little bit of time on TikTok. She taught me the term rental arbitrage. And what that means is she'll be really proud that I'm using this right now. Apparently, when you do exactly what you just said, you rent someone else's rental and get their approval to sublease it and Airbnb it. So
yes,
if you end up going that route, I would love to hear about your success or challenges.
All right.
Tonya, last but not least, lesson learned or advice to anyone considering doing the same?
Yeah, highly recommend it. Definitely have a site handle the booking for you. But I mean, the key in this day and age is providing an experience. That's what people want. And this is another component of your business, to provide an experience and build a relationship with a customer. And that's what they want. So anything you can do. And so if you don't have room in your home, there are some great little tiny houses you can put out there, sprinkle them throughout your yard. Kind of a similar component is Harvest Host. If you have acreage or whatever, Harvest Host is similar, but they're bringing their own location. Highly recommended as well.
I couldn't agree with a lot of the things you just said about just creating that overall experience, getting that brand loyalty from these customers who are just so immersed in what you've created and just spend lots of money supporting you, and I'm sure they'll come back. I personally can't wait to visit all of your breweries and meet face to face, and I appreciate all of you sharing your insight today. Hopefully can motivate some others to continue the path of considering opening an Airbnb at their brewery, or maybe they learned that it's not for them. But either way, Tonya, Tammy, and Rick, I appreciate the conversation today and hope to see you soon. Cheers. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.